more than enough to let the light in. The way you're making me feel it's divine. It's enough to let it flow, let it be. 'Cause you're everything that I crave in this life. 'Cause we're everything we can find in another life. Take my hand and my promises, they're yours to be held, and I want you. I only want you. Keep my heart and my honor is yours to be held, and I want you. I only want you for the rest of my life. My life. For the rest of my life. You're in my sight and my mind, in the quiet and up front out loud, in the calm, in my spirit and the storm. 'Cause you're everything that I crave in this life. 'Cause we're everything we can't find in another life. Take my hand and my promises, they're yours to be held, and I want you. I only want you. Keep my heart and my honor is yours to be held, and I want you. I only want you for the rest of my life. For the rest of my life. For the rest of my life. For the rest of my life.
I'm Nancy, and it is 3:17 in the afternoon. We are going a little bit later today because my moderator had to work till 3 o'clock. So I want to give her a chance to get finished working and be able to get in here. So here we are. Okay, so today we're going to talk about Sara Grace Patric. She was supposed to she went to court yesterday, and I want to show you, I want to get ourselves familiarized with the case a bit. So we're going to start here. See, what do we do? Today I went to I had to go back to the doctor over my shoulder, and he gave me an injection back here, and I have to go back in 2 weeks for a follow-up. But in the meantime, he gave me 6 to 8 more weeks of physical therapy, and Butch bought me a exercise thing with the bars that you can do the arm pushes like this with the things, and it's just like one that my physical therapist has. So my doctor said that that's really good, but not to use it until after I talk to the physical therapist and get him to instruct me on what exercises to do on it so that I don't damage my shoulder trying to repair my shoulder, because this side is really weak because I haven't been using it since September. And so, all right. So I want to begin with thanking my moderators, Amanda Panda and H. Davis. They're wonderful moderators. And I want to thank all of you for being here, because without you, I couldn't be here. And I do everything under the fair use. I try to stick to that. I took a little test through YouTube yesterday to know the rules, what I can and cannot do with fair use. And I had somebody comment on one of my videos the other day that because I used the music overlay, they couldn't watch the video because the music was too distracting. So that's why I took the test with YouTube, was to make sure I knew what was right and what was, what I could and couldn't do. So I don't have to use the music overlay as long as I break it up and talk several times in between what I'm doing. So that's what the rules for YouTube work. So okay, let's get into this. We're going to start off with Grok to learn a little bit about the case. All right, and come to screen. All right, I can't enlarge this anymore. Wait, maybe I can. There we go. Well, it takes me off the screen, but that's okay. The case overview, Georgia versus Sara Grace Patric. Sara Grace Patric, now 17, is charged as an adult in Carroll County, Georgia, with the Redrums of her mother, Kristen Brock, 41, and stepfather, James Brock, 45. She faces 2 counts of malice redrum, 2 counts of felony redrum, 2 counts of aggravated assault, and additional related charges such as possession of a pew-pew during a felony, stemming from a grand jury indictment. The incident on February 20th, the couple was found shot to death in their bed at their home on Tyus Carrollton Road in Carrollton, Georgia. Their younger daughter, Patric's half-sister, aged 5 to 6, discovered the bodies. Patric called 911, initially reporting that an intruder may have entered the home. Investigators later alleged that Patric pew-pewed both victims and allowed her younger sister to find the bodies before calling authorities. Key evidence cited includes a mountain of digital and physical evidence, such as Patric's digital footprint. Additional details from court filings mention that security cameras in Patric's room were taken down in the days leading up to the pew-pewing, and the camera in the victim's room was not operating. Initially, Patric portrayed herself as grieving on social media and reportedly contacted TikTok true crime influencers to cover the case and help solve it, offering intel. She turned herself in on July 8, 2025, after arrest warrants were issued. Portrayal developments. Bond denied. In August 2025, a judge denied bond, citing flight risk and potential witness intimidation. Patric had remained in jail, reportedly in solitary for her safety due to her age. Change of venue request denied. The defense cited extensive pre-trial publicity, including coverage by Court TV and People magazine. Mental health evaluation, neuropsychological evaluation was conducted for the defense. Issues with the final report led to the recent delay. Trial status. As of January 6, 2025, the trial was originally scheduled to begin with jury selection on January 5th, 2026. However, on January 5th, the court granted a continuance after the defense indicated they lacked the final neuropsychological report, and prosecutors requested time to review it and potentially conduct their own evaluation. The trial has been rescheduled for August 2026. Jury selection tentatively set for August 3rd. Motive has not yet been publicly detailed by authorities, who described the investigation as ongoing at the time of arrest. I'm sorry for yawning. The case has received significant media attention, including coverage on Court TV, which highlighted it as one of the most anticipated trials of 2026. Before the delay, family members are divided, with some supporting Patrick and others seeking justice for the victims. For the latest update, check sources across. Okay, the neuropsychological evaluation in Georgia versus Sara Grace Patric was commissioned by the defense team of Sara Grace Patric. It plays a key role in pretrial proceedings and contributed directly to the trial's delay from January 2026 to August 2026. Key details. Expert and timing. The defense retained a forensic psychologist in mid-August 2025. The expert conducted the evaluation over multiple visits and sessions with Patrick, who was in custody during the summer of 2025. The purpose was the neuropsychological evaluations in criminal case typically assesses cognitive functioning, brain-related impairments, intellectual abilities, personality traits, and potential mental health issues that could inform defenses, e.g., I don't know why my screen shut off. It shouldn't have. Okay. Diminished capacity, imagination during sentencing, or competency. However, public reports do not specify the exact focus here. Sources note it could influence trial strategy, and media has speculated on Patrick's possible mental stability. The court action. My membership gift sign was just flashing. I don't know why it was doing that. Okay. The court action. Judge Dustin Hightower granted the continuance on January 5th, 2026, rescheduling jury selection for August 3rd, 2026. He expressed reluctance, but deemed it necessary for fairness, warning that further delays were unlikely, slim to none chance. Public disclosure. The contents and findings of the evaluation remain sealed and undisclosed to the public. Reports emphasize that specifics are under wraps, and any results presented will likely emerge during the trial, e.g., as expert testimony. This evaluation highlights potential mental health considerations in the case. Hello, H. Davis. How are you doing today? Though no insanity plea or formal competency issue has been publicly confirmed, motive for the Redrums remains undisclosed by authorities. I'm very well, thank you. For the latest, okay, so off of Grok and put me. Can you hear me? It said my audio was shut off. Yeah, it's saying it's working. Okay. Okay, what I found today when I was researching, thank you, is this image. And I could only find one page. And it says Donnell Patric, plaintiff, which would be Sara's father. Kristen Patrick, aka Kristen Nolan, which is Sara's mother, the defendant. In reason, minor child, Sara Patric, year of birth 2008. She's a female. Minor child, Donnell Patric, year of birth 2012, a male. Now, they don't say anything in the case about there being a son. Hey, Manda Panda, welcome in. Thank you for being here. You guys are doing a great job. I appreciate both of you, Manda and H. Davis. They were only talking about Patrick's half-sister. So I'm imagining in the ex parte, the father probably got custody of the younger child. Ex parte petition for modification of custody and emergency custody. Come now, Daniel Patrick, plaintiff in the above styled case, petitions this honorable court for an ex parte order granting him temporary primary physical custody, allowing him to care for his minor children, Sara Grace Patric and Donnell Jerry Patrick, as it is in the best interest of the children to be with the plaintiff, Donnell Patrick, the legal father of the children. The plaintiff was granted joint legal custody and visitations through the parties' divorce. And I couldn't find another page after this one. And this was as of November 10th, 2019. So I guess the little boy must have been, Donnell Jr. must have been with the dad at the time of this happening. That is only speculation because it doesn't say anything about him being present during the incident. Okay, now, Sara Grace Patric, no bond. Judge believed teen could be flight risk. Okay, here's a little video.
A former Bulldog, DJ Shockley. Check out more Bulldogs action streaming to your TV with Fox Local on your Roku, Fire TV, or other streaming device. Go Dogs.
A grand jury has indicted a Carroll County teen on charges she killed her mother and stepfather. Last month, deputies arrested and charged 17-year-old Sara Grace Patric with murder months after her family members were found dead.
Fox 5's Kevin Stewart attended today's bond hearing for that teen in Carroll County. Kevin, what happened in court today?
Well, that bond hearing.
Okay, so this is just to find out if she could get bond, I believe. Actually, I'm just talking to cut this off for a minute so I don't get copyright.
Lasted about an hour and 40 minutes. Inside, you could see the suspect crying, sometimes smiling, but in the end, the judge denied bond. So Patrick will remain in the Carroll County Jail until trial. Dressed in a bright green jail suit, the teen accused of killing her own mother and stepfather.
She's even called from jail multiple.
Wow, with that red hair, she looks great in green. That's my favorite color.
Times so I could pray with her.
Listens to the fight, the debate to get her out of jail or keep her here.
The thought of the defendant walking free, even temporarily, only adds to our fear, anxiety, and inability to begin healing.
Sara Grace Patric has been in custody in isolation at the Carroll County Jail due to her age since July 8th, after a biological father turned her in. There's something you'd like to say, sir?
No.
For the February murder of her step.
See, I thought they said she turned herself in. And now they're saying her dad turned her in? Well, he did a good thing.
Father James Brock and mother Kristen Brock.
Imagine their tear in their final breaths. The defendant is charged with the brutal murders of my brother, Jamie, and my sister-in-law while they were lying in their bed, shot multiple times, including both shot in the head. The possibility that she could harm us is terrifying.
Despite efforts to get a bond,
she truly believes in forgiveness and has always extended the same grace to others.
Judge Dustin Hightower ruled no.
And I do not believe that you will be a proper candidate for bond.
We are very thankful that the court has recognized the seriousness of this case and made the decision to deny bond.
And within a couple of hours, an 8-count indictment, including felony murder and aggravated assault, came down. Court revealed a dividing line.
Wow,
A family divided.
Counts.
Patric's blood
I
family
didn't see
versus her
that.
step family. The Brocks show no grace for Patric, and the Nolans stand with the accused killer.
She's innocent until proven guilty. They've taken a different view, and it's their right to, to speak freely. They're angry, and it shows.
Now, the judge says the earliest this could go to trial is January. Going live in Carroll County, Kevin Stewart, Fox 5 News.
Okay. So, Amanda Panda, how was work today? Second day on your new job. Very well, very well. Are you liking it so far? You can get me service all the way up here in Kansas. What do I need? Oh, mosquitoes. I'll let you know when summer gets here because we ain't had no winter. To speak of. It's 64 degrees here. I don't know why this is spinning. It's been spinning all day long. Okay, stop.
In the case, Kristen Brock's 17-year-old daughter, Sara Grace Patric, has been taken into custody and charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault in connection with the deaths of her mother and her stepfather.
Welcome back to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. So this morning,
Arkansas doesn't allow them to do mosquito pest control. What are you supposed to do? Die of malaria? My goodness.
we're giving a voice to victims and talking about what's ahead for 17-year-old accused parent killer, Sara Grace Patric. We're looking ahead to her upcoming bond hearing, and police say that this 17-year-old shot and killed her mother, Kristen, and her stepfather, James Brock, at their Georgia home back in February. In public, just days after the murders, though, she delivered a heartfelt eulogy. The video was posted to Facebook by a family relative.
I just wanted to say goodbye to my mom and Jamie since we never got the chance to. I was so used to you guys always being here to the point that I never once thought to imagine y'all not being here. And didn't have a single clue how much I needed y'all until now. Although there's nothing we can do to bring them back, we still have control over how we treat people with us today. I love you guys, and so do I. And so do they. I'm sorry.
Now, that's not all. Sara Grace also went to TikTok. That's right. She went to different true crime sleuths about her parents' murders. Take a look.
He doesn't know it, but a year from now, our family will be torn apart, and I will be far away and won't see or talk to him for 5 years.
I don't have
Let's talk about this.
copyright
We're
on
days
you.
away from her bond hearing. Of course, she wants to be let out. You know how I feel about that. I told you right at the start of this show how I feel. But let's dive deeper into what kind of a potential danger this 17-year-old is. She's being charged as an adult. Let's talk about all of the different aspects at play here. Her behavior, what does it indicate? She needs some serious treatment from here on out. Let's bring in our expert guests, criminology expert, Dr. Debbie Goodman, and psychology expert, Dr. Sue Kornbluth. Good morning to you, ladies. Wonderful to have you on the show.
Good morning.
Let's start, please, with the criminology. Dr. Debbie, tell us what you see here with the behavior that's been alleged to have been done by this child.
Certainly, and good morning. You know, the optics of this case, Julie and Dr. Sue, I think that's what's really unsettling for a lot of people. We have this 17-year-old girl. We don't expect a child to be involved in a double homicide. What do we expect? A 17-year-old should be going to school, learning, growing, developing, setting goals, interacting with friends and such. So when it comes to should she be let out, I say absolutely not. And we do have, Julie, as you know, and Dr. Sue, the top reasons, if you will, in these kid killers' minds as to why potentially they would kill a parent. First of which, of course, is mental health, many of whom have severe depression, psychosis, neurosis, schizophrenia. Others are grappling with drug and or alcohol use, abuse, addiction. The third of which would be any type of abuse going on in the home, emotional, physical, sexual. And then lastly, and interestingly, is about dating. You know, sometimes these teenagers who want to date, the parents are either against dating, period, until a certain age, or they're not in favor of the individual with whom the child wants to date and interact. So I know we're always looking for a why. I think on this case, we will get the why. But I would not let her out. I think she's a danger to others and potentially to herself.
Dr. Debbie, thank you for the assessment. I really appreciate it. Let's turn to the psychology that was behind this. Dr. Sue, how we wish you could personally evaluate this child, 17 years old. It stuns me to think this is been allegedly carried out by a 17-year-old, but that is the allegation. What do you think could have been going on in this child's mind if she did what police say she did?
Good morning to both of you. You know, Dr. Debbie said a lot of good things right there that I agree with. But let me be clear on this. This is a young lady who has had tremendous trauma, it appears, in her life. So, you know, there was a contentious divorce going on with her parents. There were drugs and alcohol and all these things involved that I read about yesterday. My concern with her is that what she did on TikTok shows a need for excessive attention. And that is why I believe that she should not be let out on bail, because there are some severe mental health issues going on here that need to be evaluated, and she needs to be kept safe somewhere. And if that's in jail, then it's in jail to determine what is going on here. It seems to me that she was just living inside of her head, probably had no one to talk to about what was going on in her world. She was on the move a lot, going from home to home. We don't know what happened in her own home, if there was any kind of abuse. But like Dr. Debbie says, she could be a danger to others and to herself. So keeping her in jail right now is best for everyone.
Dr. Sue, thank you. Really appreciate the insights. I have a clip from Sara Grace's grandfather, and Grandpa does not believe that she could have done this. And it's important to point out he was not in the home, so he is not a fact or witness to this case. This is somebody who's just kind of speaking to her character and saying, and here he talks about her experience with rifles, but not with handguns. Let's watch.
She was here, and whenever we shot guns, they were rifles. I never saw her shoot a pistol. but I just can't imagine, the accuracy that gun had in her hands. I don't think it could happen.
Okay, Dr. Debbie Goodman. It was a handgun, according to police, not a rifle. That's why.
So I hadn't heard anything about it being a rifle. So it had to be, wow. And her grandpa doesn't believe she could have done it? Impressive.
He's saying that. Your thoughts on this, young lady's capabilities in terms of using a firearm to commit this homicide?
Yeah, absolutely. The capability is high, Julie, and we wouldn't necessarily think otherwise in terms of what the grandfather would say, what the father would say. Of course, as you, Dr. Sue, the Cordies, and I know, there will be denial. It's just a tough pill to swallow when the family members have been lost. What we know about victimology, primary, secondary, tertiary. Primary victims, of course, Mr. and Mrs. Brock. Secondary would be the grandfather, the father, extended family members.
Doesn't that look like the house we lived in when just before when you got pregnant with Kelsey over there in Fort Smith? It looks a lot like it. Take this end of it off and it would look like the house we lived in there in Fort Smith.
We're grieving the loss of their loved ones, and then tertiary, the rest of us, because it's just so unsettling and disturbing, again, to think that any type of double homicide would take place. That alone is so shocking, and secondarily, that it would be at the hands of a child. But yes, Julie, one is capable when one sets the mind to it. We say in criminology, mens rea actus reus. First, it's the intent to do the harm, to participate in the killing, and then secondly would be the actus reus, actually taking the action.
Oh, that's great information. Dr. Debbie, thank you for that. I sure hope that someone from whomever worked this case, if it was the local sheriff's department, county police, whomever it was, I sure hope somebody swabbed her hands for gunshot residue. When she made that call and they respond, I sure hope that that was done. Don't know if it was, because remember, she placed the call after her younger sister, who was 6 at the time, found her parents shot to death in their bed. It appears this happened when they were sleeping. And then she made the 911 call. So the details are limited, as you ladies know. Dr. Sue, going to the fact that they were shot in their sleep, at least as we can tell, shot in their sleep in bed together, sounds like an ambush by somebody. What does that say psychologically?
Well, it's a great question, Julie. I think what it says is there was rage and anger, and perhaps it could have been plotted. And I feel, this is my opinion, that a lot of more information is going to come out about what was going on in this home. And I think you're going to find that there were tons of abuse going on. This is my gut feeling. I think, we talked about this case, I think a week or two ago, you and I said a lot more information was going to come out, and a lot more family dynamic information has come out now. And, she's innocent until proven guilty, but I think severe abuse can cause a child to snap, and possibly that is what happened here. And I think that she has been enraged since she was a little girl. I probably would bank on it that she felt her voice was never heard in this family, and that she erupted and possibly killed them. But we shall see. It's a very scary case.
It is very scary. And of course, we always value your insights, Dr. Sue and Dr. Debbie Goodman. Dr. Sue, to your points, I just have to give our little disclaimer here. We don't know, we at Court TV do not know if this child was abused in the home. We have no idea. This is Dr. Sue's theory. Just want to be clear on that. And we will wait and see what comes out the bond hearing, because that's something we'll be listening for. Something like that could very well be said. We shall see.
An arrest.
So that kind of puts a little bit of a spin on it. We don't. Of course, we can all have speculations and theories. I mean, personally, I wasn't always happy with the way things were when I was growing up, but I never thought about trying to unalive my parents. Wow. Okay, now we are on GradicCommunications.com. Attorney files motion for continuance and change of venue in Sara Grace Patric's case. A Carroll County Superior Court judge has denied a defense attorney's request that the trial of accused Redrum Sara Patrick Parker, scheduled to begin January 5th, 2026, be continued until next trial calendar. Teenager Patrick is accused of pupilling her mother and stepfather. The couple was found unalived inside their Carrollton Tyus Road home on February 20th, 2025. In her request for continuance, attorney LaToya Williams stated that defense counsel has yet to receive full discovery in the case. Williams claims that some missing items are of such importance that receiving them even the day the motion was filed would not afford defense counsel adequate time to fully prepare for January 5th, 2026. The state responded to 10 individual claims made by the defense counsel, which were reviewed by court, and the court determined that the state is in compliance with its discovery obligation, and all necessary discovery will likely be provided sufficiently in advance of the January trial date to afford the defendant a fair trial. Among revelations of those court documents are the claims by the state that cameras in the room of the defendant were taken down in the days leading up to the pupilling, and the camera in the room of the victim was not operating at the time it happened. Patrick's attorney also filed a motion for change of venue due to presumptive and actual prejudice caused by extensive pretrial publicity. Among the basis for change of venue, attorney Williams cited claims of national and regional media saturation, dedicated true crime attention focused on the case, inflammatory social media commentary from local residents, rumor-based and false narrative spread, and prejudice is particularly acute in smaller communities. The defense requests that the trial be moved to a county where jurors have not been exposed to or have less exposure to pre-jurisdictional and inflammatory publicity. Any decision on that motion was not available in court documents as of Wednesday morning. Okay. So, but we've since found out that they're not going to do, we read it in Grok that the judge said that he was not going to award them moving the case to a different county. I hope my internet don't go. My internet's been acting really crazy. CJ cleaned his room the other day, and I'm wondering if he unplugged the box, not realizing what he was unplugging. Because when I'm talking, my mouth is not moving with what I'm saying on my screen. Okay, so here. All right. And I saw a video today. I'm going to see if I can look it up. Attorney Lee or Judge Lee or something. I can't remember. She did a message today, pretty much the same as the message I'm doing, but hers was more vocal than visual. I try to use visual aids as much as I possibly can because I don't have access to the information without going through YouTube and other sources. All right, so let's go up to here. Let's unmute and let's.
We kick off this second hour of Court TV Live with some big breaking news. We were expecting the murder trial for defendant Sara Grace Patric to begin today, but the trial has just been continued. Patric is the Georgia teen who's accused of murdering her mom and her stepfather. Jamie and Kristen Brock shot and killed inside their home back in February.
I certainly hope that's a baby doll. I would, oh, they blurred out the child's face. I see. I got it. I'm sorry. I could have had a V8.
Of 2024. The couple's 5-year-old daughter is the one who made the gruesome discovery of their bodies, and Sara Grace is the one who placed the 911 call to report it. She cried at their funeral, even delivered the eulogy. Then 6 months later, she was arrested. She is 17 years old now. She was 16 at the time of the incident in question, and she's being tried as an adult. I want to bring in now Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft to give.
I can understand that because she made an adult decision. If you've made it, guess what I get to do? What do you get to do on Sunday? She made an adult decision to act as an adult with what she did. So I can understand. Go watch the. Oh, you get to go see David Bowie, your teenage sweetheart. I want to say I envy you, but they remastered it for the 40th anniversary. I saw something about that. I did. Congratulations on that. I kind of envy you, but I'm the type of person that if I have to sit still in a theater, I'm going to fall asleep. Even sitting in there trying to, we literally got the last 2 seats. Oh my goodness. So you can't even take me, kick Drew out and take me with you. Now you're probably going to tell me it's you and Lexi going, aren't you? I'm playing. I wouldn't kick Lexi out. Even sitting in there watching a movie with Butch, I fall asleep. We have to go to Fayetteville. Well, you're going to be halfway there. Just come on up. Okay. So, let's go.
Us more about why the continuance happened today. Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning to you, Julie. We have been monitoring this case, really looking forward to it taking place, getting off the ground. We had heard that opening statements would likely take place tomorrow, but we are now hearing, as Julie just mentioned to everyone, that this case has been continued. This happened just moments ago. Now, this morning, what was taking place inside that courtroom, defense counsel had indicated that they are ready to proceed in this case. The state is the one that is asking for the continuance, and this is all based on the neuropsychological.
We have to go to Fayetteville to even watch it. Yeah. I can imagine. Of course, I think they have it. Are they going to do it in IMAX? I think they have an IMAX theater in Fayetteville. I'm glad you got your tickets early, because if you tried to just drive up there and watch it, you'd probably been sitting on the sidelines.
psychological evaluation of the defendant, in this case, Sara Grace Patric. So her defense counsel had wanted to get an evaluation of her. So they had people go and they were visiting with her on several different occasions. The preliminary report of this was just sent back to counsel on December 31st. So it's not even a final copy, Julie, and that is exactly why the state is wanting this continuance. They are now saying that they need to get their own expert after just taking a look at the draft.
Sure. Yeah, this is not unexpected, Kelly. I have to tell you, we were talking about it this morning, that this was a possibility because that evaluation happened back in August. Still no report, not saying it's the fault of the defense attorneys. This expert that they consulted with is the one responsible for generating it, but just a draft on New Year's Eve, fundamentally unfair to the other side. Kelly, I have video from the hearing just coming in. We're able to show this. So if you'll stand by, we'll talk about this afterward. Let's play the back and forth between the lawyers and the judge.
Okay, so I have to break up again because I don't want to get copyrighted. So I was saying before I started, that I took a quiz on YouTube fundamentals yesterday or today. I don't remember which one it was. Anyway, and it was like a test to see what would get you striked and what wouldn't get you striked, because I had a warning from way back, I think in the summer, and I never did anything about the warning. I thought it would just go away. Well, it didn't just go away, so I took the test to find out what's striking, what's not striking. So now I know. You don't have to have the background music, just so long as you break it up. And don't just try to play it nonstop.
We're ready. All right, Ms. Patrick, just before you came in, we're calling through the trial calendar, okay? All right, on the trial calendar, your attorney has announced ready, and the state says they have a motion, so we brought you out so you can be present for that motion, okay? All right, if you have any questions along the way, that's what your attorney's there for. If you have questions that your attorney can't answer, she knows that she can reference those to me, so just make sure you speak with your attorney, okay?
Yes. Okay.
All right, Ms. Weeds, we good?
We are young.
All right, state.
Thank you, Judge. At calendar call on December 16th, Ms. Williams and the state both indicated that the report regarding the psychological evaluation or the neuropsychological evaluation was not back yet. On December the 31st, we did receive a preliminary draft of the report from Ms. Williams, but as of right now, we still don't have the final copy of that draft. And after just reading the preliminary draft, the state does believe that we need to evaluate that to retain our own expert in that matter. So at this point, because of that, like I said, on December the 16th, how we might need to evaluate that for an expert report, the state is going to be asking for a continuance in this matter.
Yeah, we are opposed to a continuance. We are asking that the court would.
Look, says victim Kristen Brock, 41 years old, married to James Brock, mother of Sara Grace. James Brock's not the mother of Sara Grace.
Let us go forward. I had indicated that we would get that report shortly after that court date. As soon as I got it, I did forward it over to the state. But we are ready to proceed, despite having the preliminary report. We anticipate that I would have the final draft of that report and have it over to the state by the end of the week, and I think we can go forward.
But Ms. Williams, you're not even in possession of the final report at this time. Is that correct?
That's correct.
The state, your argument is that even on the preliminary report, for y'all to adequately present your case, you need time to have an expert look over their expert report. Is that correct?
That's correct, Judge. When we go over the preliminary report, without getting into the preliminary report itself, there are some issues that the state does believe that we need to at least evaluate to get an expert report, in that case, to rebut their expert. And again, and I know Ms. Williams does it, but the state still doesn't have a final copy of that report, which, and today would be the start of her trial.
Before I go too far, I want to compliment both defense and state. Anybody who is in the legal system
knows that I put a very rigorous schedule on each of you. To have a alleged double homicide case ready within 4 to 5 weeks is lightning pace. And y'all both, state and defense, have done a phenomenal job. Y'all have had conference calls with me regularly ever since that date. Y'all have kept the court well informed of where y'all are at, what was needed, and what was going to happen. And y'all have done that even for today. We've had multiple conference calls before this hearing. Y'all kind of knew what was going to eventually transpire today, but that's because of y'all's diligent effort. So, Ms. Williams, thank you.
I've never heard a judge compliment the attorneys like that before. He must be a pretty good judge. I haven't ever seen him in action.
State, thank you. Ms. Williams, I do not believe that the delay in this report is a tactic or a fault of yours at all. I think that expert reports, from all experience, they take time. And just the time frame that I laid down for this case did not give your expert enough time to get things done in a matter of time to give the state what they needed to do. While I know that you're saying you're ready, I also know that you need that full report, and you don't have it. I think that you're weighing that against saying that your client's in custody and you want to be ready to move forward for her best interest, but I also know that you want that full report as well. For you to get that full report a week from now or 2 weeks from now in the middle of trial, and the state to get that report for the first time at that point and then decide they need an expert, I do not think that would be fair and just for either side. And we've had that conversation candidly and honestly with each other during conference calls. So even though I'm very reluctant to give a continuance in this case, I do think that it would be appropriate. With that being said, I don't want this case to languish. I still hold by what I told Ms. Patric at the beginning. I don't want her to sit where she doesn't need to sit. That's not where she's supposed to be. And only the facts of the case will let us see that every day. In order to get there, I got to try this case. So I have dates. I have a trial week that can handle this type of case in March. I have one that can handle this case in May, and I have one that can handle this in August. Now, you both know what's really there. Ms. Williams, you know the true ins and outs of your side and what's really needed. State, I think you're starting to see, based on this report, what you may actually need. Realistically, from each of you, when can y'all tell me we can be ready by this date and this case not have to be moved?
Judge, from the state's perspective, I think the best date would be that August date for everyone. That seems to be a date that will match up with what our needs are in terms of coverage for other courtrooms, as well as just the opportunity for our experts to prepare to combat any and all defenses as presented by Ms. Williams and the defense.
Ms. Williams?
Your Honor, I think that August would probably be the best to fit the court's need of not having to move it again. Realistically, I think that maybe if we said, March, we probably would be back here at in the same position to say, hey, maybe we need a little more time. So I don't often agree with the state, but I will say August would be the best bet if we're trying not to come back here and have the same announcement.
So I don't like setting cases just a second, which is why, in all candor, it'd be easy for me to sit here and go, let's place this on March. But know in the back of my mind, March is not going to be a realistic thing. So with that being said, if we go with August, state, you're saying August. Defense, you're saying August. Are we all under the understanding that the chances of this case being moved off that August date are slim to none?
Absolutely.
And that barring some true, just legal issue that I have to honor for fairness and justice to prevail, outside of that, we are going to make this case go. Everybody can agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Williams, you've talked with your client about this ahead of time. I know that. She is still in custody. I understand that today would have been a better day Is your client also comfortable with that August date?
I don't know if comfortable is a good word, but I've advised her of where we are and what moving into August would mean. And strategically, I think, and practically, she trusts me and my advice. And so I think we are in a position where we'll be okay with August.
Okay. All right. Based on what's been presented for me today, I will place this on, I believe it's August 3rd. We'll place this on August 3rd. And with the understanding that if I'm going to bypass 2 trial dates in order to get there, I'm bypassing the 2 days that I could set it on, right? But by doing that, I'm giving defense and state all the time that you could possibly need to have this case ready. And August 3rd needs to be our day. We need to come in August 3rd, ready to pick a jury. All right? Where everyone's on the same page.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Again, I do want to stress how grateful I am to defense and state and how well y'all attacked this case. The general public, I don't believe they fully grasp the difficulty of preparing a case like this. While we did set this very ambitious date,
I was looking up Lawyer Lee to find out what she said today.
it still has Miss Patrick getting tried within a year of her indictment. In other words, we will not reach a year of her indictment. Her case can be filed again. For a case like this, if you look across the state and country, that is very fast, even in August, Ms. Patrick. And I believe your attorneys probably explained that to you to some degree. But it does need to be August. So August 3rd.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so they reset the case. I'm going to write that down. Okay, I was going to write it down. All right, I wrote it down, and if we get any more updates, we can do an update. Now, next, okay. All right, so here's the link. There it goes. It was down there in the help section, and I couldn't. Sorry, lost my lunch. Then Kaylin got me. Are you okay? Is Kaylin okay? Okay, good. All right, this is Lawyer Lee, and she put up a post this morning. Shocking new evidence the jury may never see. And I had heard something about this. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I heard something about this last week, but I couldn't find a report on it. So I'm thankful that Lawyer Lee did it. So let's pull this up. I want one of those silver YouTube things. I need 1,000 subscribers.
The last week, but we'll get into that later. So we almost started a brand new trial today, but the trial of Sara Grace Patric was put off until August 3rd. It was continued by the court because the defense needed time to get and finish getting an expert witness. But we have gotten absolutely bombshell information about what the state is going to be arguing and what the defense thinks the jury should not hear about. That could dramatically change the entire outlook of the case for Sara Grace Patric as she moves into the case. Now, Sara Grace is asking the court to keep the jury from hearing some shocking, potentially very damaging new evidence. And the defense says the jury shouldn't hear about this at all. We're going to talk about what that evidence is and what this could mean for Sara Grace Patric going into the case. Plus, she has a very surprise.
And if what she's going to say that they think the defense should not hear will go totally against what Court TV was just talking about. And you'll understand why. I'll explain it in a minute.
New expert witness. We're going to talk about whether that means there are some big changes in store for the way she's going to be approaching the case. She has insisted up until now she's innocent. So why has this expert been consulted? We're going to talk about that ahead in tonight's video. A quick overview of the case for those of you who are new to it. There are two wildly different versions of this story. Now, version one, prosecutor side. On February 20th, 2024, everybody was sleeping peacefully in the Brock home, except for Sara Grace Patric, age 16 at that time. She grabbed a gun. She crept into the room where her mother, Kristen, and father, James Brock, were sleeping, and she shot them repeatedly. And then she waited for someone to notice. And that someone was her own little sister, who also lived in the house, a 5-year-old who found the mother and father the next morning. Now, according to prosecutors, Sara Grace Patric then proceeded to make sad posts on TikTok to try to capitalize on that story. That she reached out to influencers, asking them to, you know what, I need to see. I will tell you what I have found. I've forgotten everything about how to do this, right? I was like, take 2 weeks off. And you're like, what are you doing? So anyway, I am double checking that, yes, you can hear me. I forgot. That's something I need to check on. But, oh, okay, we're all good on that score. Okay. All right. So according to prosecutors, Sara Grace Patric wanted to be big on TikTok. And so she pulled in.
If you don't subscribe to Lawyer Lee, I would like to suggest let's hit that thumbs up over there on her channel. Come on, there we go. And let's subscribe to her channel if her type of discussion it interests you, because she has information we don't have access to. I mean, somebody like Clutch Them Pearls may have access to that kind of information, but I don't know. Or Deception Detective may have, I don't know. But yeah, Lawyer Lee is very good. And please, while you're here, hit that thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel.
Influencers or tried to cover this case. She even told one, supposedly, I think it will be a really big hit. And that has made some people feel that Sara Grace Patric was just entirely too flippant about the death of her own mother and her stepfather. She was focused on what it meant for her. So the prosecution view is that Sara Grace Patric is this next level, cold-hearted murderer. But it will not surprise you to hear that the defense has a very, very different story. Up until now, numerous people close to Sara Grace have insisted that she is innocent and that the authorities are persecuting her instead of going after the people who actually committed the crime of murdering the Brocks that morning. We know that Sara Grace Patric was interviewed for 4 hours by the police, and we presume that throughout that she told them she was innocent. Those tapes are not public, so we're just sort of presuming on what that is. We do know her family members have been very adamant that that's what she believes, that she did not do this, that she is innocent. So I am not feeling my absolute best tonight, so we're not going to do questions at the end. Do this for me, though. If you have a question, would you put it in the chat with question marks at the beginning? I'll try to scoop those up, and maybe I'll be able to do that on Friday. So we heard early on, and by early on, I mean the day that Sara Grace Patric was arrested, that the prosecution believes it has a mountain of evidence against her. Let's go ahead and take a listen to what was said at the press conference that was held the day.
Morning of February 20th, 2025, deputies with the Carroll County Sheriff's Office responded to a tragic scene at 1531 Carrollton Tyus Road. They discovered the bodies of James Brock, 45, and Kristen Brock, 41, both deceased from apparent gunshot wounds. Today, we can confirm that an arrest has been made in the case. Kristen Brock's 17-year-old daughter, Sara Grace Patric, has been taken into custody and charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault in connection with the deaths of her mother and her stepfather.
Now, the law enforcement insisted that this investigation had been going the entire time and included a mountain of evidence. Now, that's important, not just...
I have a question, though. If, as Sara says, somebody came into the home and committed this act, why were Sara and her little sister spared? And why did neither one of them wake up? I don't know why the little sister didn't wake up if Sara actually is the one who did it. Now, I don't know who did it, but these are just questions that go through my mind.
Information, not just they had to look at a lot of things before they could figure out what happened, but there was actual evidence for the case that presumably would relate to the person they actually charged in the case, Sara Grace. Here's what she said.
While the case has not remained in the public spotlight in recent months, the investigation has never gone silent. Led by investigator TJ Repetto, our team has pursued every lead, sifted through mountains of physical and digital evidence. I won't go.
So let's stop there. And law enforcement doubled down on the idea that they didn't just examine that information. It was actual evidence.
Exactly what it is, because it is an open, ongoing investigation, but we have mountains of evidence.
So clear implication, we got a lot on Sara Grace Patric. She's the one we charged. Therefore, that is what this evidence is leading toward, is to saying that she is guilty. Now, it's kind of been surprising in this case, frankly, that not more has been released. If there is this mountain of evidence, it's not leaking out. This is a tight-lipped group of prosecutors, and nothing much has leaked into the press. Not much is known about the case, which is why every little bit we can eke out of the documents is what is giving us a little bit of information about what the arguments of both sides are. But I want you to hear this next point, because I think this is very, very important.
The pursuit of justice does not end today, however. It is very possible, because this remains an open and ongoing investigation, that more arrests and charges could be made.
Interesting, right? Because if more arrests and charges are possible, then that suggests they think Sara Grace Patric may not have acted alone, that they are at least considering the idea that she was acting with someone else. She's been charged with murder, but the prosecutor's saying there may be other people who have something to do with this or are involved somehow. So let's talk about Sara Grace Patric's story for just a minute. I'll remove that for just a minute. So let's talk about what her view of the facts is. Now, her view is that in the middle of the night, somebody, not Sara Grace Patric, used a crowbar to pry open the back door of the Brock family home. And it was obvious because there was a mark left on the door. Now, this person, or these people, could have been more than one, assassinated Kristen and James Brock and then crept back out the door, taking the weapon with them. Now, how else, the defense argues, could the police explain the fact that there was no weapon found in the house? If Sara Grace did it, what happened to the weapon? Now, as her parents were attacked, the defense says Sara Grace was sleeping the peaceful, very deep sleep of a teenager. She did not wake up until her little sister ran in, you have to presume screaming, and she followed her sister to the room and saw the horror of what had happened, and she called 911.
Anyone who's looking for a simple way to start a business, Taylor Brands is the way to go. From forming the LLC.
Now, meanwhile, since her arrest, Sara Grace Patric's family has been very public about their belief that she's innocent. Now, let me distinguish this from the family of James Brock, the stepdad who was killed. They do not believe, at least from what we've heard so far, that Sara Grace is innocent. But Sara Grace's own family is standing with her. Her dad spoke to law crime. He was asked about this mountain of evidence. Did he know what it was? And he said, well, you can hear him. I'll add it back.
I can't really speak too much to the evidence. I don't want to talk too much, but if they say they have a mountain of evidence, that folder was pretty thin. That's all I will say.
So what he's talking about is that the evidence that was shown to him, like we have evidence, here's a folder, really thin. There wasn't something in there that looked like a mountain of evidence. It wasn't like they brought boxes in and threw entire big chunks of papers down on the table. It was a little thin file. The family has argued that the prosecution jumped to conclusions based on almost no evidence. Excuse me. So that was Sara Grace's birth father, as opposed to the stepfather who was killed that day in the family home. Her grandfather has also spoken up for her. Now, this man, you can see him on the screen now, gave an interview with Court TV, and this is what he said. You're going to hear that next. He is the father of Kristen Brock, who was murdered, and he clearly is arguing that his granddaughter did not do this.
Just in total shock. I mean, because she, first of all, the length of time that's passed and the fact that they arrested her without any evidence that I know of, everything seems circumstantial. And I think they were just desperate to arrest someone and to try and, because the case was open for months. A lot of investigation. I know they tried hard to find the murder weapon. They tried hard to find who was involved. They investigated a lot of people. And for them to charge Sara without
understand that.
So the grandfather is saying that he even asked the investigator why they arrested Sara. Why did they do that? And what he says is that he was told she was the only one who could have done it. He seemed to take that as law enforcement just saying, well, we eliminated everybody else, so we guess she did it. But we don't have a lot of evidence. That was what he seemed to be arguing with Court TV or saying.
Well, from the dad saying it was a thin folder, maybe Grandpa saw the folder too, and he's like, "You don't have enough evidence to convict her," you know. And I agree, you can't find a weapon, and you do see crowbar marks on the back door. Were her fingerprints near that? Because you have to put the crowbar there, so your DNA is going to be there. I mean, you know, I don't know. Amanda Panda, I do hope you get to feeling better. Hit that Theraflu. I know you got it, and I know you hate it, but please hit it.
We'll listen a little more.
You're standing by her side. You believe she's innocent.
Oh, I mean, I'm just in total shock. I mean, because she, you know, first of all, the length of time that's passed.
All right, I put this in twice, and here's why I wanted to do this. So let me tell you, before you listen to it again, you're like, wait, why am I listening to this again? We'll see if I can get it to the exact spot. I don't know if I can or can't, but I want you to notice that he doesn't actually answer the question, because what he was asked was, I understand that you're standing by her side. You believe she's innocent. And he doesn't exactly answer that. Here's what he said.
You believe she's innocent.
Oh, I mean, I'm just in total shock. I mean, because she, you know, first of all, the length of time that's passed and the fact that they arrested her without any evidence that I know of, everything seems circumstantial. And I think they were just desperate to arrest someone and to try and, because the case was open for months, a lot of investigation. I know they tried hard to find the murder weapon. They tried hard to find who was involved. They investigated a lot of people. And for them to charge Sara without, you know.
We assert Sara Grace.
Let me stop there. So did you hear how he didn't quite answer that question? Because the question was, so you, I understand that you're standing by her side. You believe she's innocent. And he says, I'm just in total shock. And then he talks about the lack of evidence instead of talking about, yes, he believes she's innocent. Now, the only reason I mention that is that as a lawyer, you do get used to people not answering your questions. And so you're constantly thinking about, now, did that answer exactly what I asked, or do I need to jump back in and ask it again a little differently, or maybe make sure that I understood what they said? So I do want to point out that it wasn't a direct answer, but he clearly believes that there's a lack of evidence. And the entire family has suggested that the reason Sara Grace Patric was arrested is not because she did it, but because they needed to arrest somebody, because it was a big crime and people were really upset in Carroll County where it happened. So somebody needed to pay the price for that. And I think that
Amanda Panda says he did answer. He said, I didn't understand how they jumped so quickly to accuse her, all because they needed to point a finger at someone. You're right. He did say that. And you and I, on our side of the fence, we would agree that that is answering, because we would probably answer it the same way. But her, as an attorney, she has to read between the lines of what's being said. So she's probably not reading that as being, she probably wouldn't have accepted that as an answer if she had asked him that question. She'd probably jump back in and ask him again. You know, so you're saying that you don't believe that she's guilty.
It's clear that the grandfather is implying that she is innocent. I think the father was a little clearer with that. And for sure, that is what her defense attorneys argued at her bond hearing. Let's add to the thing.
And she is presumed to be innocent as she sits before the court.
On the morning of.
You have a good point. Because it takes quite a bit of force to use a program. Of course, I don't know how strong the door is, Now, the house had siding on it, so it looked like it was fairly new or has had a lot of remodeling done on it or something. So it might have sturdy doors, but I mean, a house like mine coming into my back garage, you could probably get in with a crowbar real easy. I don't know. I haven't tried. I don't want to try because I don't want to mess up my door locks. But you do make a great point, because she's only a child. She's only a child.
So let's stop it there. I'll pull that out. So the first words she said, which we lost a little bit, were, "And we assert Sara Grace's innocence." So there's also a woman named Kelly Brown who spoke out on TikTok saying she was a family friend. And she said that Sara had reached out to her by text, and then they had spoken on the phone, and that Sara asked her to speak on Sara's behalf. And here's what she explained. She said that since Sara Grace's stepdad had a heart machine that would have alarmed if his heart stopped, now prosecutors had speculated based on that Sara Grace would have heard that. If she truly was innocent, that would have woken her up when her stepfather's heart.
Right. Why didn't his heart machine alert the hospital or his physician or something? Because even they have on call if something like that happens. Why didn't his machine alert them? And at her age, yeah, and look how skinny she is, how tiny she is. I mean, she may be taller than she looks, but she didn't look to be much like your number 3, much bigger than your number 3 child.
Stop. But Kelly Brown said that Sara Grace said, get the double hearsay there. Kelly Brown said that Sara Grace said that she didn't hear anything unusual, except she did hear that heart machine, but apparently family members were pretty used to that going off all the time.
Right.
And apparently Sara.
Right, because do you use the bent end or do you use the straight end, or do you get it in with a screwdriver to get it in first, or how do you do it, you know? Yeah.
Told Kelly it was very faint because of background noise. So then the question is, who killed Sara Grace's mom and stepdad?
Right.
At least up until now, we do know that Sara Grace's position has been that she does not know. And that's exactly she would.
Amanda Panda says her number 3 child wouldn't know how to use it, wouldn't know which end to point up.
Say why she's been reaching out or did reach out to true crime influencers on TikTok, because she would say that doesn't mean she's guilty. It means just the opposite, that she wanted someone to work on solving this case since the police clearly weren't having any luck. We have also heard from her family members that Sara Grace's mom and stepdad had several brushes with the law over the years. Sara's dad told Law and Crime that her brother saw a supposed friend pull a gun on the stepdad. And Sara told authorities that a drug deal had gone bad just a month before her parents were killed, and that the stepdad had ripped somebody off in a deal. Now, based on those stories, certainly what I was expecting Sara Grace to argue is that her mom and her stepdad had connections with very dangerous people. And maybe that lifestyle or those connections just finally caught up with them. Sara Grace, unlike many of the defendants we cover, has many defenders. Her pastor, family members, friends, but the family of her stepdad, I should say, appears to be pretty firmly in the camp of believing she's guilty. So I want to talk about a couple of things. Number one is the brand new evidence that is leaking out. And number two is about
Ooh, are you feeling what I'm feeling? Family of the stepdad. Stepdad is a dealer. So says. So the family, if they're into that action as well, they may have some money. And you know what's happening in the Sebastian Rogers case? Evidence goes where the money's not. I wonder if I'm on the right path here.
Whether an expert witness who has been presented by Sara Grace's side, and whether or not that means her story is about to change, or what it means. So let's talk about the shocking new evidence first, because, and interestingly, we didn't find out about this from the prosecution. We found out about it from the defense, of all the places. Sara Grace's team filed what is called a motion in limine, or in limine, depending on where you practice. It's a motion that the attorney files to tell the judge that the other side is going to try to offer some evidence and you don't think it would be appropriate. So you file this and you say the other side wants to tell the jury blah, 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 blah. I don't think they should. I think that's inappropriate under the rules of evidence. Judge, I'm asking you to tell them before trial even starts that they can't do that. So here are the pieces of evidence that Sara Grace Patric's team said they do not want the jury to hear about at trial. Number one, all comments relating to the defendant sexting or having sex with other guys, or any reference to the defendant's alleged sexual behavior or promiscuity. And we don't get any reference to what that means. This is just written out in the defense motion. And very importantly, the defense may say this whole argument that the prosecution wants to make is just nonsense. Like none of that ever happened. But at this stage, this is not the motion. What they're arguing in this motion is, even if that is entirely true, Judge, it shouldn't come in. It doesn't have a place in this case. And I'll explain about why that is and what the arguments are in just a minute. So number two, all videos, posts, or pictures depicting or alluding to the sexual behavior of the defendant. Now, just like with the first one, that's all we get. No details of what exactly the allegation is. But again, the defendant is saying, even if that's entirely true, Judge, you should not let the jury hear about that. And point number three is all comments relating to the defendant's illicit drug use or hiding of drugs or drug paraphernalia. The defense thinks the jury shouldn't even see this evidence. And let's look at kind of what it means legally. What are the competing legal interests here? So the defendant has an interest, a right to have a trial where only relevant evidence is presented. The state can't present totally irrelevant matters to the jury in hopes they will convict her. It has to be relevant, and what it has to be relevant to is the allegations against her in this case about what she is alleged to have done to her mother, to her stepmother. But now, and you can see where a 16-year-old could have sex, could be promiscuous, and could never murder a single person, much less their mother and their stepfather. And maybe what they did.
That's very true. That can happen. I've seen it happen. There's so many teenagers you don't know, out there doing things, and then all of a sudden when something goes wrong, they're not happy with it. They want to break up with their boyfriend, or they want to break up with their girlfriend, and all of a sudden the R word comes out. It happens. It happens. It didn't happen this way, but I mean, they're not saying it did. I don't know. But yeah, I can understand what she's saying here.
Would be very bad for them. Maybe it would conceivably harm them or harm other people, but it's not murder. And you can see that. But and of course the same goes for videos or posts, anything depicting sexual behavior. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with murder. maybe it's a terrible idea, but someone could take pictures of their conduct and never murder a single person. And clearly, that would apply to illicit drug use as well, or to hiding drugs. I mean, many a teenager has done all of the things we just talked about, and they have never killed another person. So every one of those pieces of evidence is potentially prejudicial to the defendant. That means it could make the defendant look bad. It can make the jury think badly of Sara Grace. Now, they're not admitting it's true. They may have lots of arguments that it's not, but just for purposes of this motion, all they're talking about is that this particular set of allegations is going to be prejudicial to her, and it shouldn't come in. And the law has a way to protect defendants or to protect parties. Every piece of evidence, the judge has to balance it. Now, is this piece of evidence, is this hiding drug paraphernalia, is that more probative? That means it helps to prove something the jury needs to know about. Or is it more prejudicial? That means it hurts the defendant. And the judge is constantly going, okay, well, this one's more probative, this one's more prejudicial. Throughout the case, the judge has to make decisions like that. So the judge has a lot of discretion doing that. And what that means is that it's really unusual for an appellate court to say, you know, we think the judge abuses discretion, we're going to grant a new trial, or we're going to overturn the verdict. That's unusual. They try to give the judge a lot of leeway to make decisions like that in the context of a trial. Now, the defense, Sara Grace, is also making a second argument that this is really just character evidence. In other words, what they're trying to do, the prosecution, is to say, look, she's a bad person. She's an out-of-control 16-year-old who has done all kinds of inappropriate bad things. We don't know full details, but you can see from what we know the kinds of allegations they would make. But the law is really careful with character evidence. Often it doesn't come in. You can see why you could be a truly terrible character and still not be the person who committed that crime against those people. You could have just horrible character, and that could still be the case. But the prosecution, at least we presume, they haven't filed their response. Last I was in the docket earlier today. Prosecution hadn't filed a response, but they will likely argue that this should come in anyway. And here's a reason why they might be arguing this. The prosecution is saying that Sara Grace murdered her parents. And if they have evidence that these types of behaviors were causing big problems between Sara Grace and her mom and stepdad, maybe that would help them show what the motive for this was, that there was a lot of disagreement in the household and that Sara Grace was disagreeing with them about everything from boys to drugs. And that would have led to murder. What the judge is going to have to decide is this important to show motive, or is it more prejudicial against Sara Grace? And the judge is going to do this and make a decision about that. My guess would be most of this evidence will come in. We would have to know kind of more details to really be able to answer that for sure. Now, there's another piece of potentially bombshell evidence that the state may try to use. In their motion for continuance, the state told the court that there were cameras in Sara Grace's room. Now, that leads to a lot of questions. Why were there cameras in her room in the first place? And who put them there? Who was watching Sara Grace? Now, according to the prosecution, those cameras were taken down in the days leading up to the shooting. The prosecution also said that there were...
Isn't that a violation of privacy? I mean, that was a thing when my children, Amanda Panda and her brother and sister, were younger. That wasn't a thing. But I would never have thought to put a camera in any one of my children's bedrooms. Unless it was to, see if they were doing their homework. But, my kids did their homework at the kitchen table or in the living room or whatever after they got home. They didn't do their homework in their bedrooms. We didn't have cameras in the house. But no, I don't believe I would have even put, no, I don't think so. I wouldn't have. I've trusted my children to do the right thing. And I believe I would have been invading their privacy if I'd have been. I mean, I'm a helicopter parent, don't get me wrong. But that would have been going above and beyond.
Cameras in the room of the victims that were not operating at the time of the shooting. Now, all of that is just strange. Why would people put cameras in their bedrooms? I mean, it seems like that would be the last place you would put it. I can understand you might put them in the room of a small child if you're worried about their safety, or an older person if you're worried about them falling. I guess if you put this together with the drug allegations, maybe the parents had some concerns about the use of drugs. But by the time a girl is 16, this is just uncomfortable. I mean, that's really so. And why would, and assuming that the Brocks did it, why would they put?
You don't need new skills for a second job if you know right AI tools.
Thing in general. And it sounds like from the way the prosecution phrased it, they're going to argue that these cameras were taken down. Maybe they're going to argue that Sara Grace took them down to hide the crime. To me, the bigger question, though, is why they're there in the first place. That leads us to the third piece of evidence, that mysterious expert witness that I mentioned earlier, who was the entire reason that the case was delayed. The defense report until partway into trial, and that didn't give the prosecutor enough time to review it, to respond to it. So the case was put ahead. Now, it was a puzzle, and I still can't fully solve it before the defense just tells us. We just don't know a lot about this case because so little evidence has leaked out. But I have, up until now, assumed that the defense is going to be that someone else killed Kristen and James Brock. Sara Grace is going to say, I didn't do it. Maybe I don't know who did. Maybe I do, but I'm not the one who did it. I've assumed that's what she was going to say. We've got the statements of her family, the family friend who says she was speaking on Sarah's behalf, even her own attorney. All of those lead to the idea that Sara Grace is going to say, I was innocent. Someone else committed this crime. But now we have this notice of expert testimony, and I want to analyze this based on what we are talking about here. I need to say thank you to Jenda Baum. Thank you so much. Much appreciated, and Happy New Year as well. And Marlon, member for 22 months. That is amazing. That's our full amount of time. Marlon is one of our mods. Very much appreciated. And per usual, I just realized I forgot to say, could you please hit the like button? I would really appreciate that. And also, if you aren't subscribed, we would love to have you back for more videos. We cover this and more cases that are in the news. We would love to have you back for more. Met Spunky, member for 15 months. That is awesome. We are very, very glad to have you. I'll finish the rest in just a minute, but let's head into Emmett Spunky is saying Happy New Year. Much appreciated. And next, let's head into this document and talk a little bit about it. So the defendant has given notice that they're going to offer expert testimony from this Dr. Robert Schaefer. And they've said, what is his field? Forensic and neuropsychology, including but not limited to clinical evaluations done with the defendant during incarceration and evidence review. So in other words, they have brought in somebody who's a forensic and neuropsychologist and he has actually evaluated Sara Grace Patric. And he did that while she was in jail for purposes of this case and as part of evidence review, during incarceration evidence review. Now, if you look down here at his CV, we see that he has specialized training in forensic and neuropsychology, that therapeutic services and court advisement for families in transition and crisis, that's what he would testify about, and determination of competency and criminal responsibility, neuropsychological testing, crisis intervention. So those are his specialties. We can go ahead and pull that out now. Those are the things he would talk about. And so if he's talking about families in transition, families in crisis, let me get the picture big again. The determination of competency, I think that might be an important one, in criminal responsibility. So I was thinking, what would you typically use an expert like this for? And all we've got so far is the notice that she wants to use him, and here's who he is. Here's his CV. But expert, in general, the reason you would offer an expert is that you believe there's an area that's important.
If you recently came in, please hit the thumbs up. And also, if you don't mind, please go over and check out Lawyer Lee's channel and give her a thumbs up for her excellent work here.
For the jury to understand, but it's not something that most people would know about. It needs to be someone with some specialized knowledge to explain it to them. So typically you would use somebody like this, or you would expect to see someone like this used as an expert when you have a defendant claiming that they are mentally incompetent, that they cannot be tried. Now, no one has suggested that in this case. So I'm assuming that's not applicable here, because in this case, trial was about to go forward. We were on the edge of trial. Now, a defendant might also get a report like this if they want to claim they have a mental illness that prevented them from knowing that what they were doing was wrong. They also might use it if they wanted to claim something like a type of self-defense that was based on, say, years of abuse or something like that, kind of a Menendez.
They could have possibly used that because if she doesn't want any drugs or paraphernalia or anything like that used in testimony, they may have gotten to make sure that she wasn't messed up at the time and committed this under some kind of a hallucination or something like that. That may be why they're trying to go down that road. I'm not sure. I don't know what drugs do to people if they could cause that kind of activity.
Brothers type of argument. Now, the cameras in Sara Grace Patric's room, that is super creepy, I think. Does the defense maybe plan to argue that the parents were hyper controlling to the point that they were surveilling her entire environment? Could there be some kind of psychological pressure on her? Well, by the way the parents were acting, or even just because of the cameras. Maybe she was under some chronic state of stress. But here's the thing, both of those last two reasons to get an expert report, mental illness, self-defense, they assume that the jury believes that Sara Grace Patric actually committed the crime, that she murdered her parents, which means that Sara Grace Patric's team would have to be assuming that there is a real chance that the jury is going to believe she did it. That would represent a pretty radical 180-degree turn in the way she has been handling the case up until now. Up until now, she, her family, everybody's been saying Sara Grace did not do it.
Did you experience inappropriate behavior from a bishop, church leader, or member at any LDS church when you were?
Her pastor said this. This would just be a dramatic change. So I have one last thought on why this witness might be important. Sara Grace Patric gave interviews to the police, at least one, maybe more. We haven't seen those. They have not been provided to the public. But the prosecution seems to believe that she said some very damning things in those interviews. Sara Grace Patric, age 16, was interrogated for 4 hours by professionals. A forensic neuropsychologist might talk about how a 16-year-old would be very suggestible, would be very compliant with authority, Did she understand her rights, for example? Was her decision-making mature enough for her to be punished based on what she said in that interview? Now, Sara Grace's team may use the evidence to argue that the interview itself should be suppressed, meaning, in other words, that the jury shouldn't hear what she said in that interview. If the judge lets the evidence in, the expert might tell the jury about why they should not rely on specific things that Sara Grace said in that interview. Maybe she was under pressure, the witness might say. Maybe you can't trust how her mind operated in that particular scenario. And here again, the cameras might be relevant. A teenager who lived under the watchful eye of a camera, maybe they would have heightened anxiety, and maybe they would comply with adult directives out of fear. Maybe that would be a habit they have formed. My guess is that Sara Grace Patric is not changing her position that she had nothing to do with the murders. But my guess is that this has to do with the statement she made to the police. Now, we don't know for sure. We will be watching this case file. Trial is now set for August 3rd. So big, long delay. The judge told them, very unlikely I'm ever going to move it again. So everybody be ready on August 3rd. I want to do a shout out to the first 5 in tonight's chat: Mama Queen, Peyton, Jinda Bomb, Sue's ESQs.
Okay. So that's what we know. And I'm interested to see where this case goes. And if I find out anything else, I will definitely put up a broadcast. So I want to thank everybody for being here. If you're watching on the replay, thank you for being here. And thank you to my wonderful mods for being here. And do something nice for someone, even if it's be the reason they smile, and search for crime.